In today's video, we're going to take a look at how the worldwide 5G rollout could have surprisingly big benefits for Nokia's stock. First, taking a look at the 5G rollout itself, then digging in a bit more to Nokia's results from the past quarter and past years, and how they're kind of perfectly timing their overhaul to take advantage of this rollout that's happening around the world. I'll finish by sharing my outlook on the share price as well. If you're new here, welcome to Benevolent Investors. My name's Trey McKee, and my goal with this channel is to get all of us investors to think more about how we can get more from our own investments so that we can give more to those in need. While the 5G rollout across the planet is happening slower than a lot of people were hoping to, looks like by February of this year, 30% of the world's countries finally have access to some kind of 5G. Though estimates vary, it's expected that by some point in 2023, we should be seeing about a third of mobile connections in the US to be running on 5G networks. And while 5G does offer massive benefits, including connection speeds that put many cabled connections to shame, enabling the onslaught of Internet of Things and connected cars to actually become ubiquitous, we do see a lot of difficulties happening with the rollout so far. Some of these difficulties include much shorter broadcast ranges, requiring often unsightly hardware installations to be set up in really obvious places. We're also starting to see the US unlock C-band frequencies, even though it took longer than many people were hoping to. There's still a long way to go before 5G will be commonplace around the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if it takes another 8 or 10 years, especially outside of the metropolitan city areas. Political red tape, defense complications, and many other considerations have also been shown to be slowing the rollout of 5G. China has the most 5G connected cities, though that doesn't say much as far as network coverage. It could be one little neighborhood in a whole city. Most first world countries are seeing their major cities being covered or at least connected to 5G as well. Here in Japan, it seems like the rollout's going pretty well in metro areas, and it sounds like in Canada, a lot of the major metropolitan centers are seeing coverage growth too. Europe seems to offer a wide variety of connectivity, with some areas largely connected and other areas have nothing. It sounds like the UK is leading the way with really good momentum happening in Germany too, but I'd be interested to hear your experience with the 5G rollout where you're at around the world. Let me know down in the comment section. So while the 5G rollout has been proving to be less smooth than hardware providers like Apple, pushing their super cycle of iPhones with 5G connectivity being one of the most clear sales points of this year, it's still happening slowly but surely. While we've briefly talked about other 5G investment plays like Skyworks Solutions and Qualcomm on this channel, companies who are looking to offer some of their components into device makers, players like Nokia, Huawei, and Ericsson are focused on a different part of the market, which would be primarily offering services and hardware to the CSPs, or the communication service providers, like the networks we all use every day to connect to the internet. Don't forget that Nokia is the world leader in submarine networks that connect islands and continents all across the world to the internet. Nokia's bread and butter, however, is working with those CSPs in their mobile networks division. Here we can see the comparison in net sales between their different segments compared to Q2 of last year. Mobile networks net sales were up 3% on a constant currency basis, while their second biggest division, network infrastructure, was up 20%. Third largest, cloud and network services, was up 2%. And finally, their highest margin business segment, Nokia Technologies, was up a healthy 20%. Sliding down, we see the year-over-year change in operating profit and loss here too, which is exciting to look at. Mobile networks up 36%, with network infrastructure up 145%. Cloud and network services down a bit, and Nokia Technologies up 22%. And so from this info, we can see that Nokia, often still thought of as a cell phone, seller, which actually they are in India and other parts of Asia, apparently. They're actually much more heavily focused on building out the networks that power the world and all of the, cell phone carriers that we use every day. In fact, you're probably having contact through one of Nokia's products at some point along the line if you ever use the internet. And so with so much ground to cover in the 5G rollout, expecting maybe another 8 or 10 years, this leaves Nokia with a lot of potential for growth in revenues and margins in the coming years too. In fact, the total addressable market across all of Nokia's business segments is something in the area of 113 billion. For reference, Nokia's market cap sits at 34 billion, while competitor Ericsson sits at about 38 billion. Huawei's market cap isn't quite as clear, and I think with ongoing sanctions, we'll see their international influence probably like wobbling a little bit for at least a few quarters, if not longer. Depends what happens in politics, I guess. Last year, after Nokia's new CEO Pekka Lundmark stepped in, he announced a swath of changes he would be making. Nokia had become fat and lazy, and he was here to change that. He announced the plan to slim the company down by slashing 5,000 to 10,000 jobs, or up to 12% of the workforce, and he would boost efficiency by unifying various processes through various departments as well. Though he gave a conservative outlook of when these massive changes would actually start to hit the bottom line, we're starting to see a lot of those results hitting much earlier than anyone thought they would. They changed their second quarter guidance a few weeks back, causing the stock price to jump up nicely. And then in their recent second quarter earnings report, they announced a similar boost in expectations for the entire year of 2021. This has brought a nice lift to the stock price, which seems to be the gift that keeps on giving, a few cents a day over the last couple of weeks. The stock price has finally come into a range that I think's, more on par with what I think they should be valued with at the moment at least, but I'll get into some of the more specifics of that in a second. So while the 5G rollout is happening more slowly than many people want it to, it seems like Nokia has just started to shape up on time to capitalize on this. Net sales from CSPs was up 8% on a constant currency basis year over year to 4.2 billion euros, leading us to a total net sales boost of 9% across all their business segments. This helped Nokia to end the quarter with an EPS of 6 euro cents versus last year's second quarter of 2. Return on invested capital was up big time from 11.4% to 18.4%. And we ended the quarter with free cash flow of 77 million euros, positive for the fifth quarter in a row, but still not, dropping any jaws. Lundmark and CFO Wiren have been clear in expressing that this number should continue to be positive into the coming quarters. And once it's positive enough, I think we'll start to see a dividend coming back too. And though many investors prefer to forego dividends so that money can be plowed back into the company to encourage growth, I've seen that in a lot of cases, solid companies offering solid dividends can often bring in a whole new cohort of investors, which may further boost margins for Nokia. This chart nicely illustrates how Nokia's changes are starting to hit the operating margins, with the outlined box in the middle there, coming from the structural improvements being applied. They're using a lot of these savings to put back into R&D, which is really what long-term investors in Nokia want to see. Looks like R&D spending was up 44 million euros compared to a year ago. And while that's relatively small, especially compared to competitors like Huawei, I think this demonstrates Nokia's understanding that their technology advantages are crucial, but maintaining a conservative spending policy is just as important. The Nokia Technologies portion of the business, which generates big margins on their 3,500 patent families, will continue to be crucial to the company's growth, and hopefully this R&D bump will continue to see growth in the coming years, spurring that. Broadly speaking, comparing the EV/EBITDA ratios with Nokia and Ericsson, Nokia is at about 8.18, while Ericsson's at 8.64. So the gap is closing in terms of the value that I saw in the Nokia stock, even up to a few weeks ago, I think. Though Ericsson has had to deal with a bout of patent issues and lawsuits, they've also arguably seen a bit more success in Asia, particularly in China, as of late. So keep that in your mind if you're a Nokia investor. While Nokia has been growing across the world, they did lose market share in Asia outside of China. This chart shows how each region contributes to Nokia's growth worldwide. While we're seeing losses in Asia, not including China, India, Latin America, and Europe's regional growth totally dwarfed the losses in Asia. Though we're seeing more headlines for Ericsson taking ground in China, it's good to note that Nokia did still grow 11% in Greater China. So what do we do next with Nokia stock? In my own number crunching, I feel like I'd be content if the price were to hit high 6s or 7s kind of in the coming months. And once again, if Lundmark's able to pull through on his thesis of making Nokia number one in the world, which he seems to be capable of doing, we could see the price hitting double digits in the coming quarters or years. I'm going to be holding on to my Nokia stocks, which currently make up about 7% of my portfolio between shares and options. If you're also going to be holding on to Nokia or want to do a little bit more research, check out 12 things you should know about Nokia in 2021 by clicking here. Love you guys and stay generous.